Welcome back to this week's episode of the Seatown Podcast, where Seattle business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders share their stories with us. I'm your host, Christian Harris. As an owner of indie real estate brokerage here in Seattle, I'm naturally interested in getting to know other local small business owners and organizations to help cultivate a flourishing culture for the businesses that play such a large part in shaping the flavor and character of the neighborhoods that we love so much. So join me as we talk with these fascinating people and explore their stories and why they started their businesses, run a nonprofit, or otherwise are making an impact in the Seattle area. Well, thanks for joining me today. I'm joined by Shandon Greybeal, the owner of Alair here in West Seattle. So Alair is specializes in unique and small batch gifts with emphasis on locally made goods and companies that give back. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. And then before the interview, you were telling me that the Alair means happy in Latin. That's kind of the inspiration and driving force of it. Can you tell me a little bit more about the meaning and kind of what you're going for with your store?
Yeah, Alair means happy, like you said, and it's there's a lot of really unique stuff that I work to find so that we don't all have the same things at all of the different gift shops.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of cuss words and there's a lot of dirty stuff and there's a lot of things that I think are funny, but it's always kind.
Sure.
So it's never, there's never going to be something that's like, you're an asshole or whatever.
Right,
Am I allowed to cuss
mean or something. Yeah.
That's right.
I'll make sure to tag it with explicit. It'll be fun.
Perfect. Yeah.
I guess how did you get into this? Alair's pretty new. What was the motivation for starting?
I had been working on it for a really long time, and I've lived kind of everywhere. I sold beer for like forever, so I've lived in 10 different cities, and always really loved going to these gift shops and finding the perfect thing, and you're like walking around, you're like, I didn't even know I was shopping for that person, but that's perfect for them. And I had been working on the business plan for a while and moving, and it's really scary though, to like the amount of money it takes to buy the initial inventory and just everything is so much. And I was married for a while, and after I got divorced, I started looking at places a little bit more closely, and then this place opened, and I was inside, and I could just picture it, and I was like, wow, my future looks way different than I thought. So I just had a big screw it moment and signed the lease, and then it was just like, full speed ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Stuff just got real.
Yeah.
How's that been? How long have the doors been open?
December 3rd.
Okay, so very
almost
recent.
a year.
Yeah. What's been the most exciting aspect of opening your business? Is there any aspects that were kind of unexpected?
I think all of it was pretty unexpected.
Yeah.
You don't really know. I just had this like vision of having a cute gift shop that I took my dogs to every day, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, if you don't do something when you own a business, it doesn't get done. So the community aspect is so cool, and it's been so supportive, and the people that come in and are genuinely happy for you, like living out your dreams, is the coolest thing, and it makes me, constantly be like, man, I wish I'd have done this 5 years sooner, but
sure.
It happens when it happens, so
sure.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Do you find that most of your customers come in kind of stumble upon you, or they kind of seek you out, or what's been
a little bit
response?
of both. It was, a lot of stumbling upon it first, and I still get people that come in and they're like, how long have you been open? I've never noticed you before.
Yeah.
But a lot of people come in and say they heard about me from somebody else, or somebody had been telling them that it was the perfect store from them. And I also get a lot of people from Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a lady a couple weeks ago that came in on a Sunday from Bothell,
Okay.
and she was like, I've been following your Instagram, it's amazing. I planned my whole Sunday around coming down here to go shopping, which is amazing. You're like,
okay, so
Instagram.
that's great. Yeah, so I take it you're pretty prominent on Instagram or on various social media. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Seems to be working.
I went to the Create Cultivate conference a couple weeks ago,
Okay.
and I'm at like 2,100 followers or something like that, and I'm like talking. There's these big mentorship groups with these people that are like really big on social media. And, this girl was like, one of my favorite people to follow is this like little nobody that only has 3,000 followers. And I was like, damn, I worked so hard to get to 2,000, But yeah, I'm trying, and it's a really fun way to show new stuff when you're getting new things in every day. And people come in and like, I feel like I know them already because we've been commenting back and forth and stuff, and it's really fun.
Sure. Yeah, isn't that the wonder of the internet?
Yeah,
internet
it's
age?
amazing,
It's
right?
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
also like, a lot of work, but it's
Sure.
cool because you're like everything you do, you see
Sure.
what the good is
Right.
that you're doing,
Yeah. So how do you, where does most of your stuff come from? Like, how do you find, new vendors? Does it tend to be kind of other small businesses or just kind of mom and pop operations?
It's a lot of really small companies, female-owned. I have a lot of local girls in there. I have a lot of people that it's their first time ever selling wholesale, and they're learning how to do it, and I'm learning how to buy it. So we're just like really patient with each other and figuring it out. And one of the girls that sells her jewelry in the store Nordy made is, I was her first wholesale account, and she just got her second, and it's so exciting for her.
Yeah.
So it's been, a lot like that, a lot of word of mouth, and like as I said, I was going to other stores for so many years, so following them on Instagram and then finding things, and now I have, because I've lived so many places, like all my friends go into stores in different cities and send me pictures, and they're like, you have to sell this girl or whatever. So
that's fine.
obviously there's like books and publishers and stuff that are way bigger, and you can't really do that with as much, but I try as much as possible to do those small local companies.
Okay. Now tell us a little bit more about your backstory. You live here in West Seattle. Your store's here. You mentioned that you've lived a whole bunch of other places and whatnot. What has primarily taken you around? What are some of the funner places you've lived?
So I'm from Ohio, which is not fun.
I'm from the Midwest too. It's okay.
Are you? Where are you from?
Iowa.
Yeah, that's.
But I tried not to tell too many people.
Yeah. It's one of those.
But I grew up here, so.
Okay. So I worked for Miller Brewing to start, and I went to Kentucky for a while, and then I was in California, so I lived in Orange County, San Francisco, Sacramento, and then I moved here in like 2007 or 8 for about a year, and then then I got married, and he worked for Amazon, and we moved a lot with his job. So then we were in Reno, and then Cincinnati, and then back here. I feel like I'm forgetting somewhere, but everywhere was fun in its different way, Like Sacramento, I lived right in Midtown, and all my friends lived 3 blocks from me, and we were 25 and single and working for beer companies, and it was really fun.
Sure.
So I always said, though, when I was done moving, like West Seattle was where I wanted to be. So it was that, like, I took years and did it and moved a whole bunch of places, and then when I got over it and I was ready to like buy a house and plant roots and be done with it, it was going to be West Seattle.
Okay. Why West Seattle?
I love it here. Like when I lived here before, I lived in Green Lake, and I used to come down all the time, and I just thought that it's really pretty here. First of all, like where my house is at night, if I have the windows open, you can hear the seals, and you get Facebook alerts that there's whales down in the water right now. And, it's really pretty here, and the community is really cool, and it's awesome that it's growing right now. We're getting better restaurants and new businesses and stuff. But yeah, it's so I own a house like 3 blocks from my store.
Okay, nice. So you just walk in.
Usually.
Yeah. Give your dog a little walk as you.
It depends on how hard it's raining.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned, as a small business owner, you have to do everything yourself. What would you consider some of your greatest strengths that have attributed to your success so far?
I'm super organized, and I just do. I always heard growing up that if there's a job in front of you, it's yours. So I'm never like, if the bathroom needs cleaned, we're going to clean the bathroom. Or if you need to deal with whoever, you get on the phone and you do it. You don't sit around and complain about how you have to do it. You just make it happen.
Sure. So,
yeah, I think it's been good. I'm working more than I ever have before, obviously, but I've never felt overwhelmed or like it's work. Like it's just you see the reason behind every single thing you do.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, there's something definitely different when it's yours and you're growing something,
Yeah, rather than like working for a company and they're like, every Friday you have to turn in this report, and you're like, who's even looking at this?
Right.
It's good.
Yep. On the other side of that, what's one habit that you wish you had?
It's right now. I spend so much time talking to people in the store, but I've always thought of myself as an extrovert. I sold beer. I did special events for beer companies, so I did like, Super Bowl and Final Four and backstage at concerts and like all of these big events where I was traveling all the time, and every night was a party, and it was somebody's reward for something, so you always had to be on, and I felt like I was always really good at that, and I'm just not anymore. So I like go to work and I love it, and I talk to everybody, and I get this real connection with people, and then I leave and I shut down.
Sure.
Like all I want to do is go home and be quiet with my dogs. So, you know, I kind of wish that I still had that thing I had in my 20s where I was like, let's go meet every single person in the world. But I definitely shut down at the end of the day now.
Life goes in phases, you know. I say embrace that inner introvert.
Yeah. Like, who knew?
Yep.
If anybody from like 10 years ago were like, oh, Shannon's an introvert now, it would be amazing.
Yep. Well, I always find it interesting meeting other introverts that are also social, because, you know, there's kind of that stigma of like, well, if you're an introvert, you just stare at your feet and don't talk to anyone. You know, like, you can be perfectly social, but still, like, you need your downtime. You know?
Yeah.
What would you find? What do you find that you're most passionate about?
You know, I really think that life is all about like how you treat other people, and I really think it's super simple to make somebody's day really easy. You know, after we had the burglary a couple weeks ago, and it was this one shitty person that did something that sucked, but afterwards I had people coming in. Like the next 4 days in a row, somebody was waiting at the store for me with coffee in the morning.
Oh,
and
great,
people brought in wine, and people brought in food, and people brought in flowers, and people came in and like cried tears, and they were like, we feel like you're ours, and this happened to all of us, you know. And I think like that's the stuff I'm going to remember, and it made it really easy to focus on this amazing community that was coming together instead of this one person that stole a whole lot of stuff, you know. So it's I've always thought that that's the place to spend your time and energy, and to go that extra mile is making people feel better, feel good.
Yeah, no, it's great when you really feel connected,
Totally.
you know, to that community. Like, come around people that have had, you know, shitty things happen. So did they ever find the guy?
No, he knew. He was wearing a mask and gloves, and I mean, I hope they do so he doesn't do it to anybody else, but I don't have high hopes of it happening.
Sure. What have you found most challenging about opening and running your own business? You know.
I've always been. I was in sales, right? So I've always been super competitive, and it's been hard for me to admit that there's some things that I just am not good at prioritizing right now. Like, it takes me a month to answer emails. Like, sorry, you know, it's been really hard for me to say like, oh, maybe it's not just that this is a crazy time. Maybe it's just like that I'm bad at prioritizing that, you know. So you have to admit your flaws, and that's okay.
Yep.
I've also never managed people before, and I'm like managing people for my first time. So I've been constantly like reading management books and trying to figure that out and making sure I'm doing a good job with that. But everybody's so different, and I think that it's something that comes with experience, but we'll see.
In the past, you know, what's holding you back from becoming the entrepreneur you are? Previously, you kind of mentioned, you've had a lot of different job experience. You mentioned, I wish I would have started this 5 years ago. This is amazing.
Like, it's scary. It's all the the financial part of it, and I'm not the kind of, I don't do things half-assed, you know. So it was like once you made the decision, like it was all in. It wasn't like I was going to do it part-time and then still keep the job, and it's scary. And you know, quite honestly, I didn't have the best marriage, and it wasn't something I probably would have had the confidence to do before that. And it's, you know, it's a big commitment to say, like, let's put all your eggs in this basket.
Yeah, for sure.
So but once you do it, it's all in, right?
Never look back.
Yeah, there was a time last year though. So I signed the lease in August and got the keys November 1st. And I always had traveled a lot with work and personal, and like I had gone overseas once a year, and like always done these big vacations. And I'm like ordering all the fixtures and furniture and inventory to my house, and it's all in my garage.
So you did all the tenant improvements yourself? And
no, the landlord did like the flooring and put in windows and stuff. I picked him out, but he did it. But I'm like trying to get everything ready to, you know, I wanted to open by Christmas. So I was like trying to get everything together, and then I started to panic about like never getting a vacation again. So on a Wednesday, I booked a plane ticket to Oktoberfest in Munich and left on Sunday. And I was like there for a week, and then I went to Prague for a week and like met all these amazing people and like partied, and it was really, really fun. But there was a point where they were like trying to put the sign up on the window for me, and they're calling me, and they're like, we need your final approval, and I'm like partying in Prague. And finally I just get this one email that says like, Shandon, period, seriously, period. I was like, okay, you're right.
So
I did that, and then I got the keys November 1st. I had like 19 of my friends come over that week and move everything from my house to the store and put together furniture and put out inventory and clean. And I mean, 19 people were there for 4 days. Like, we just drank beer and ordered pizza, and it was a store at the end of 4 days, and it was amazing. And then I went to Bali for a couple weeks with my best friend, and then came back and opened 2 days later. You know, so it was like, I know. So I didn't advertise my open date or anything, because I was like, just in case something, you know, goes haywire, just in case I'm being really ambitious, like, we'll just figure it out. Or if I'm really jet lagged, like, we'll just figure it out, because after that I'm going to be in town for a while. So we opened December 3rd, and when I look back at it now, I'm like, holy crap, like that was insane. But it was awesome, and it was so worth it. But there was definitely a day in December, and I was walking to work, and it was December last year. It was freezing and really rainy, and I walked to work, and I was there for a couple hours, and like somebody came in, and she's like, it's so awesome, you don't have to wear shoes in your store. And I looked down, and I was like, oh man, like I totally walked to work and was working for a couple hours and forgot to wear shoes. Like, I was just so tired. You know?
How does that even happen?
Yeah, but it was just funny. Like, there wasn't a point where I was like, I'm so tired. You know, like, why did I do this to myself? It was just all so fun and exciting. So now I look back and I'm like, well, that was insane.
That's one experience awesome. I don't have. No, forgetting shoes at home.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's not too late.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. So what's next in store for you and Alair?
I don't know. I have no idea. You know, like I would really like to get some things online, because I've lived so many places, and I have people all over the place, and I have people that would like to shop, and just even here, you know, there's sometimes it's hard to get to West Seattle if you're somebody in Bothell following. On
so you don't have any like online.
I have gift
commerce
cards on there.
Okay.
And that's it. It's, you know, I've been on my own, so it's going to be a project. A lot of the people that I sell in the store are so small that when you start to sell them, you know, they have their Etsy shop, or they have their website, and then they're selling to a couple stores. So if you start to sell online, it's competition with them, and you just, you know, like, so I have one girl, for instance, who, if somebody finds her on Instagram and they are local, she'll send them to me, and if they're not, she sends them to her website, you know. So it's going to be a process to figure out what I'm allowed to sell and what I'm not, and figure out the tax rates, and just figure out the you know, photography for each product, and writing a description. It's going to be a process. So we got it set up a couple months ago where it's possible, and there's gift cards on there right now, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, that should be interesting to figure out how not to step on the toes of your vendors. So.
And you don't want, I mean, you want everybody to be successful, and you want you want to keep it unique. And then I do such small quantities of everything, because I'm doing these small makers, you know. So it's like, if there's 3 in the store, and then how do you make sure that you're not selling something online and then somebody buys it in the store and then you're out, you know. So I just think it's just going to be something I'm going to need to wrap my head around, like after the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. Is the holidays tend to be kind of the busy time for you, or is it pretty consistent throughout the year? Yeah, I guess you haven't been in a full annual cycle yet. Yeah.
I mean, December was busy last year, but I opened, and you know, I'm still getting people that are coming in saying that they didn't know I was there. So hopefully this year is great with all of the, you know, people that have been coming in for the past 11 months and know the kind of things that we have. And then anybody new, January and February I always heard were really slow, but they were busy for me this year, but I think it was because I was new and a novelty. And so, I mean, I'm just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, totally.
No one gets in the business having all the answers.
Yeah.
Can you share with us maybe some of the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, you know, somebody told me that, like, they're like, you're going to crash and burn on some things, and you're going to screw some things up, and you're going to fail spectacularly at some things, and you're going to do great, and you just have to be able to say, like, well, all right, I learned from that, and move on and not beat yourself up over it. And
Sure.
I've taken it to heart. There was a day not too long ago, and it was like a Saturday night, and I had been working for weeks in a row, and it was like, I closed at 7 on Saturdays, and it was like 6:45, and this woman came in with one of her friends, and they were talking, and I was just kind of tired, and I said, let me know if you need help with anything, but I didn't, engage and talk to him as much because I was trying to get my stuff done. And at the end of it, it turned out she was like totally writing an article on us, and I was like, and she was great, and I talk to her all the time now, and she definitely understood, but it was a good learning moment where it was like, you can't have that off moment. Like, sure. You never know if it's somebody's very first time coming in, or if it's somebody that had a bad experience last time, or if it's you just don't get the luxury of, not being on.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's nice to have that mindset, that like when you do fail or don't do things as well, because you will. I mean, we all do, that you don't lose hope in that. You just look forward. I mean, what's the saying? The road to success is paved with failures.
Yeah. And it's back in the sales days when you're like being really competitive with all these people, like you kind of beat yourself up for those failures, and now you just have to be like, all right, well, that was a really good lesson for me to learn, and hopefully you're going to be learning lessons your whole life and not ever, there's the other saying, it's like, you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. It's like, hopefully like you're going to continue to be able to learn lessons and be open-minded about that for your whole life and not ever think you don't have anything else to learn.
Sure. Yeah, it's something I personally struggle with being in business, because like, you're figuring things out, there's a lot of things you don't know. But at the same time, when like you're asking for advice or people giving feedback, it's really easy to be like defensive and be like defend like how you're doing things as opposed to being open and responsive to like, hey, I could do this differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
I had like, when I walked into the store the very first time, it was this huge open area because it used to be a gym, and there's these 3 frames on the wall that they used to post workouts in, and the very first time I ever walked in the store, I was like, I'm going to put really girly wallpaper in there and put a big velvet couch under it. Like, that was the only thing that I saw, and I was like, I just could picture the whole store around that. And then I was talking to another business owner who's been in business in West Seattle for a long time, and she was like, this is really cute, but this is like, you should not have this couch here right in the middle of everything. It like stops the flow. It doesn't make sense. And I was like, oh damn, and I changed it, and it looks way better. And everybody comments on how much better it looks. And I really think that my customers would be honest with me if it didn't look better. And I'm like, she was totally right. I'm like, and it's hard when you're like, that's the only thing I pictured when I walked in, to like walk away from that. But it's cool to like continuously be able to be flexible. And the coolest part is when you own it, you're like, no, it's not working, we'll just change it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're small, you got that flexibility and maneuverability. Yeah. Do you personally listen to podcasts?
Yeah, some. I listened to like a lot of the true crime ones for a while, and I listened to that stuff you didn't learn in history class. Okay.
Yeah. And if you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
My favorite book of all time is The Great Gatsby, because he's, just such a good, like, hopeful person. And I read it every year as soon as, like, the first week of nice weather happens. Like, I read it every single year, and it's, like, different every single time. So, yeah, I would say that, but if you haven't read them, I would also think that everybody in the world needs to read all the Harry Potter books.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of Harry Potter stuff in the store.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So you're a big Harry Potter fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just read it a couple years ago for the first time. I didn't read it when I was a kid. And
so if someone's like turned off by the movies, the books are a lot better?
They're way better.
Way better, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I tried to watch like the first Harry Potter, and I'm like, I can't do it.
So the books, they go, like the way she wrote them is like, he starts out, young, and each book is a year in school. And she wrote them like to grow with the kids. So like the first one is really, it's like emotions that kids that age can feel, and then like, you know, the emotions get more complex and the words get bigger throughout the books. And so if you just watch the movie, you're going to be like, oh, this is cheesy and what's the big deal?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
great.
Interesting. Well, maybe I'll give it a try.
I've heard their audiobooks are really good too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So as we wrap up here, what's one piece of parting guidance you'd like to leave with our listeners?
You know, the biggest thing I think is just knowing what your strengths are, knowing what they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
I was an English major and studied photography, and I've always been creative and good with people, but I can barely multiply. I'm so bad with numbers, you know? And one of the things that from the very beginning that I was like, I'm going to admit that I'm not even going to try to do this is my bookkeeping. And I hired the best bookkeeper, and she's amazing, and she saved my ass a bunch of times. And she tells me when tax rates are changing, but she also she just helps me with everything. So I think that just being really honest with yourself and saying this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm not good at. Finding your people to help you. It's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to come on by or find you online, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The website is alairseattle.com, and the Instagram and Facebook is @alairseattle, and our address is 3280 California Avenue Southwest.
All right. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Shandon. Go check out her awesome store and support a local small business owner.
And thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
That wraps up this week's episode of the C-Town Podcast. Make sure to check out our guest website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they're doing. If you have any questions, know someone who should be a guest on here, or has a story worth sharing, email me at christianharris@ctown.com. That's SEA-town.com. I would also be honored if you could go to iTunes and give us a review and a nice 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on great guests and provide exceptional content, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rank well on iTunes so others can find and enjoy the show as well. You can also find out more about me, how my real estate brokerage and our unconventional approach can help you with your Seattle area real estate needs, or other projects I'm working on by visiting ctown.com, SEA-town.com. Today's intro and outro music is courtesy of the Fascination Movement. You can find their albums in the iTunes Store. The C-Town Podcast creator and host is Christian Harris. You can listen to more episodes and find all our show notes on our website at ctownpodcast.com. That's SEA-townpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in a week for our next episode. This has been a C-Town Media production.